Beneath the dazzling glow of wealth and influence, a world often lurks unseen, a web of secrets, betrayal, and buried intentions. For one man, success came at a cost he could never have foreseen. Daryl Hartman, a celebrated entrepreneur known for his groundbreaking innovations, seemed to have a thriving empire, a beautiful wife, and a reputation envied by many. But appearances can be deceiving. Daryl's perfect world crumbles when a seemingly innocent encounter with a waitress unravels a sinister plot. Betrayed by the people he trusted most, he is forced to confront the terrifying truth about his life, his fortune, and the loyalty of those closest to him. How deep does the treachery go? And can one man, armed only with resilience and a newfound ally, reclaim his life and find redemption in the ruins? This is not just a story of betrayal. It's a tale of survival, reinvention, and the power of starting over. It is a journey that reminds us all that even in the darkest moments, there's a light waiting to guide us home. Hit subscribe and join us as we delve into stories that inspire, captivate, and remind us of the strength within us all. Daryl Hartman had built his empire from the ground up, a feat achieved through relentless ambition, sleepless nights, and a mind that never innovated. He was celebrated in business circles and lauded by magazines as the visionary of the decade. Yet, for all his accomplishments, Daryl was a man who often chose to ignore the whispers of discontent that lingered in his personal life. Jasmine, his wife of 5 years, had been his constant companion at charity galas, corporate launches, and private boardroom dinners. On the surface, they appeared to be the epitome of a power couple. But Jasmine had grown distant over the last year. Daryl attributed it to the pressures of their fast-paced life, brushing aside her cold demeanor and frequent absences. "She'll come around," he often told himself, focusing instead on expanding his business and preparing for a highly anticipated product launch. But fate, as it often does, had other plans. One evening, during a dinner meeting at a luxurious downtown restaurant, Michelle, Daryl's waitress, lingered longer than expected at his table. Her demeanor was nervous, her words halting. She slipped him a note, trembling as she whispered, "Read this when you're alone, please." Startled, Daryl tucked the note into his pocket and carried on with his evening, dismissing the interaction as odd. It wasn't until he was back in his penthouse later that night that he unfolded the hastily scrawled message. "Mr. Hartman, your wife and brother conspire to take everything from you. Please be careful." The words were like a punch to the gut. Daryl's mind reeled as he read the note repeatedly, hoping it was a cruel joke. But deep down, a seed of doubt had already begun to sprout. Jasmine's recent behavior, Keith's growing involvement in his business affairs, began to form a picture he could no longer ignore. Determined to uncover the truth, Daryl embarked on a quiet investigation. He hired a private investigator to follow Jasmine and Keith, all while maintaining a facade of normalcy. Days turned into weeks as the pieces began to fall into place, each revelation more devastating than the last. The investigator's report was damning. Jasmine and Keith had been meeting secretly for months, not just socially but in connection to Daryl's business. Financial documents showed unauthorized transfers, shell companies, and suspicious investments tied to Keith's name. Jasmine had leveraged her insider knowledge to aid Keith in siphoning off funds from Daryl's accounts, paving the way for a hostile takeover of his company. The betrayal wasn't just financial. Photos of intimate dinners, shared laughter, and stolen moments confirmed their alliance's nature. Daryl's world came crashing down. The people he had trusted most, the woman he loved and the brother he had mentored, had conspired to dismantle the life he had painstakingly built. But it was Michelle's note that stuck with him. Who was this waitress, and how had she discovered such sensitive information? Intrigued and desperate for answers, Daryl sought her out. When they met, Michelle revealed that she had overheard Keith and Jasmine discussing their plans during a private dinner at the restaurant where she worked. Risking her job and safety, she had chosen to warn Daryl, believing he deserved to know the truth. Michelle's courage ignited something in Daryl, a determination not to crumble under the weight of betrayal but to fight back. Together, they devised a plan to expose Jasmine and Keith's scheme. Daryl wouldn't just salvage his empire. He would reclaim his life and emerge stronger than ever. As the storm brewed on the horizon, Daryl prepared for the battle of his life. Little did he know, his journey would lead him to discover the depth of human deceit and the unexpected kindness that can spark a second chance. Daryl sat in his office late into the night, the city skyline glittering through the floor-to-ceiling windows. The very empire he had built now felt like a fortress under siege. But Daryl was not one to retreat. With Michelle's information and the evidence from the private investigator, he crafted a meticulous plan to confront Jasmine and Keith and dismantle their scheme. The first step was containment. Daryl froze all accounts linked to the unauthorized transfers, cutting off Keith's access to company funds. He then met with his legal team, carefully outlining a strategy to safeguard his assets while preparing a lawsuit for corporate fraud. The team was shocked to learn the culprits were his own family, but Daryl's resolve left no room for doubt. This isn't just about money, he told them. It's about integrity. Meanwhile, Michelle continued to prove invaluable. Her job at the restaurant had given her access to the conversations that Jasmine and Keith believed were private. She shared details about their upcoming plans, a fake merger designed to drain Daryl's resources and leave his company vulnerable to a takeover. This intelligence allowed Daryl to set a trap. In a calculated move, Daryl invited Jasmine and Keith to a high-stakes dinner, presenting it as a celebration of his company's recent successes. They arrived unsuspecting, Jasmine dressed in her finest gown, Keith wearing his trademark smug grin. Daryl played the gracious host, pouring wine and toasting to family and loyalty, his words laced with irony. But as the night progressed, the tone shifted. Daryl presented a series of proposals for the company's future, each designed to corner Keith into admitting his involvement in the fraudulent activities. Keith caught off guard and began to falter under the weight of Daryl's pointed questions. Sensing the tension, Jasmine tried to deflect, but Daryl was relentless. Then came the coup de grace. Daryl slid a folder across the table, its contents a damning compilation of the evidence he had gathered. "Care to explain this?" he asked, calm but charged with authority. Jasmine's face drained of color. Keith stammered, searching for an escape. The room fell into a heavy silence as the magnitude of their betrayal became undeniable. "I trusted you," Daryl said, his voice breaking for the first time. "Both of you." Jasmine tried to feign innocence, but the weight of the evidence made it impossible. Keith attempted to negotiate, offering weak apologies and promises to make amends. But Daryl wasn't interested in their excuses. He had one goal: to ensure they could never harm him or anyone else again. The confrontation was only the beginning. Daryl knew that exposing Jasmine and Keith within his circle was not enough. Their actions had far-reaching consequences for his company and employees. The next day, he called a meeting with his board of directors, presenting the evidence in painstaking detail. The board, initially shocked, quickly rallied behind him, approving his plan to file charges against Keith and remove Jasmine from any association with the company. But Daryl's fight wasn't just in the boardroom. He worked tirelessly to repair the damage caused by their betrayal, reaching out to affected investors and clients. His honesty and determination won back the trust of many who had begun to question his leadership. Meanwhile, Daryl found himself relying more and more on Michelle. Her bravery in coming forward had not only saved him but also reminded him of the importance of humility and gratitude. They began spending time outside their strategizing sessions, sharing stories about their vastly different lives. Michelle, who had faced her struggles, opened Daryl's eyes to a world beyond the corporate grind. He found a source of strength and perspective he hadn't realized he needed in her. As the legal proceedings against Jasmine and Keith moved forward, Daryl decided it was time to confront the personal side of their betrayal. He met Jasmine one last time, this time in the sterile setting of a lawyer's office. She arrived looking defeated, a shadow of the confident woman she once was. "I don't understand why you did it," Daryl said, his voice steady but filled with emotion. "Wasn't everything we had enough?" Jasmine avoided his gaze, mumbling something about feeling overshadowed by his success. For Daryl, her words felt hollow. He realized no wealth or affection could have satisfied someone driven by greed and envy. The meeting ended without closure, but Daryl felt a sense of finality. He had taken the necessary steps to protect himself and his company, and now it was time to focus on rebuilding, not just his business but his life. As Daryl walked out of the lawyer's office, the weight on his shoulders felt lighter. For the first time in years, he saw a path not clouded by betrayal or deceit. He had learned the hard way that trust must be earned, and even then, it must be guarded carefully. Michelle waited for him outside, her presence a quiet reassurance. "What's next?" she asked, her voice hopeful. "Everything," Daryl replied, a small smile forming. "Everything's next." Daryl's recovery journey was far from over, but the first steps were already in motion. The betrayal of Jasmine and Keith left scars on his personal and professional life, but it also reignited his determination to rebuild his company and trust in people. The first order of business was to address his employees. Daryl understood that his staff had witnessed the fallout and likely doubted the company's future. He called a company-wide meeting, standing before hundreds of employees in the grand atrium of his headquarters. The room was filled with a mix of apprehension and hope. "Many of you have heard rumors," Daryl began, his voice calm yet firm. "And I won't stand here and pretend everything has been perfect. I was betrayed by people I trusted, and it nearly cost us everything. But I promise you this, we are stronger than their greed and lies. Together, we will rise again." The crowd erupted in applause. A sense of unity and hope swept through the company for the first time in months. Daryl didn't stop at words. He implemented new policies to ensure transparency and accountability, creating an environment where employees felt valued and heard. Michelle, a quiet supporter throughout this process, became more involved in the company. Her sharp instincts and natural empathy for people made her an asset in the human resources department, where she worked to bridge gaps between management and staff. Her role grew, and so did her confidence. She felt like her life was on a meaningful path for the first time. But Daryl's efforts extended beyond his company. He contacted community leaders and local charities, offering financial support and collaborating on projects to uplift struggling neighborhoods. Inspired by Michelle's selflessness, Daryl started an initiative to provide opportunities for underprivileged individuals, offering scholarships and mentorship programs. One evening, after a long day of meetings and planning, Daryl and Michelle sat in his office overlooking the city lights. "You've done so much for this company, for these people," Michelle said, her voice soft but filled with admiration. "But what about you? What's next for you?" Daryl hesitated, looking at the city that had both tested and shaped him. "I think it's time I focus on what truly matters, building something real, not just in business but in life." His words hung in the air, unspoken yet deeply understood. For both of them, a new chapter was beginning. Weeks turned into months, and the wounds of betrayal began to heal. Daryl's company regained its footing, and his personal life started to take shape in ways he hadn't anticipated. His bond with Michelle deepened, forged through shared struggles and mutual respect. What began as a partnership to save his company had become more profound. Daryl invited Michelle to a quiet dinner at a rooftop restaurant one crisp autumn evening. The air was cool, the city below alive with shimmering lights. Michelle, dressed in an elegant but simple dress, couldn't help but feel that the night carried a special significance. Throughout the meal, Daryl was unusually reflective, sharing stories from his past. His journey from a young entrepreneur with big dreams to a man who had faced and overcome unimaginable betrayal. Michelle listened intently, her admiration for him growing with every word. Daryl reached into his jacket pocket and pulled out a small velvet box as dessert was served. The sight of it took Michelle's breath away. "Michelle," he began, his voice steady but filled with emotion, "you came into my life when everything fell apart. You reminded me of what it means to trust and believe in people again. You didn't just save my company. You saved me." Tears welled in Michelle's eyes as Daryl opened the box to reveal a stunning diamond ring. "I don't want to rebuild this life alone. I want you by my side, not just as a partner in business, but as a partner in everything. Will you marry me?" Michelle was momentarily speechless, overcome by the moment. But then, with a radiant smile and tears streaming down her cheeks, she whispered, "Yes." The rooftop erupted in applause from the other diners, who had quietly observed the heartfelt proposal. Daryl and Michelle stood, embracing as the city lights danced around them. It was more than a proposal for both of them, a promise of redemption, love, and a hope-filled future. The weeks following Daryl's proposal were filled with celebration and planning, not just for their wedding but also for the future they envisioned together. Daryl and Michelle decided their newfound partnership would extend beyond their personal lives. Inspired by their shared experiences, they laid the groundwork for a philanthropic foundation aimed at helping underprivileged entrepreneurs turn their dreams into reality. They named it the Second Chances Foundation, a tribute to the opportunities they had both been given in life. The foundation's mission was simple but profound: to provide financial assistance, mentorship, and resources to those who had faced adversity but remained determined to succeed. Their first project was a competition, open to applicants from marginalized communities, where aspiring business owners could pitch their ideas. Winners would receive funding, mentorship, and access to a network of professionals to guide them. With her ability to connect with people and her own life experience, Michelle took the lead in designing the mentorship program. The launch event for the foundation was held at Daryl's newly renovated headquarters. Once a symbol of betrayal, the building stood as a beacon of hope. It was a grand affair attended by business leaders, philanthropists, and community members. Michelle, radiant in a sleek emerald gown, spoke passionately about the foundation's mission. "This isn't just about business," she said, her voice steady and full of conviction. "It's about believing in people who have been told they don't have a chance. It's about showing them they can build something extraordinary no matter where they come from or what they've been through." Daryl followed her speech, sharing his story of betrayal, resilience, and redemption. He caught Michelle's eye as he spoke, and their connection was palpable. The audience was moved, and the foundation received donations and support by the night's end. Among the first applicants was a young single mother named Ava, who envisioned starting a sustainable clothing brand. Her story mirrored Michelle's in many ways: struggles, setbacks, and a fierce determination to provide a better future for her child. Michelle took Ava under her wing, mentoring her personally and helping her navigate the challenges of launching a business. The success of the foundation began to ripple outward. Stories of lives transformed by the opportunities it provided started pouring in. This work became their shared purpose for Daryl and Michelle, further strengthening their bond. While their present was filled with hope and purpose, the shadows of the past lingered. Jasmine and Keith, disgraced and exposed, had not disappeared quietly. Driven by desperation and resentment, they conspired to retaliate, determined to take back what they believed they deserved. Daryl was alerted one morning by his legal team. Jasmine and Keith had filed a lawsuit, claiming that Daryl had coerced them into signing over their shares in the company. The news hit like a storm, threatening to undo this progress. Michelle, his pillar of strength, refused to let the situation intimidate them. "We've faced worse," she said firmly. "This is just another challenge. We'll face it together." The legal battle was grueling. Jasmine and Keith manipulated the narrative, painting themselves as victims of Daryl's alleged vindictiveness. However, Daryl's meticulous records and the testimonies of key witnesses, including Michelle, told a different story. Over weeks of hearings, the truth about their betrayal was laid bare. During the trial, Michelle's role became pivotal. Her compelling and heartfelt testimony detailing how she had discovered Jasmine and Keith's conspiracy and risked her job to inform Daryl. Her courage and integrity resonated with the court and the public, further solidifying her place as not only Daryl's partner but also a key figure in his redemption story. The verdict was a resounding victory for Daryl. The court dismissed Jasmine and Keith's claims and ordered them to pay damages for defamation and breach of contract. As they left the courthouse, Daryl and Michelle were greeted by supporters who had followed their story, cheering for their triumph. But the victory was not just about defeating Jasmine and Keith. For Daryl, it marked the closure of a painful chapter and the beginning of a new era. He and Michelle stood on the steps of the courthouse, holding hands, their gazes steady and full of resolve. "This isn't just about winning," Daryl said to the crowd of reporters. "It's about proving that integrity and resilience will always triumph over greed and deceit." As they returned to their work with the Second Chances Foundation, Daryl and Michelle knew their challenges had only strengthened them. Their love, forged through trials and triumphs, became a beacon of hope for everyone they helped through their foundation. With the legal battles behind them, Daryl and Michelle refocused on expanding the Second Chances Foundation turning their shared vision into a legacy. The foundation's early success stories gained national attention and soon became a model for how businesses could give back to their communities. One of their boldest initiatives was the Entrepreneur Academy, a comprehensive training program designed to equip participants with the skills needed to run a successful business. The academy provided workshops, mentorship, and access to capital for underprivileged entrepreneurs. Using her experience as a waitress who had worked her way up through sheer determination, Michelle made the program practical and relatable. She designed courses on customer service, financial management, and leadership. Daryl brought in his network of business leaders to serve as guest mentors. Among them was Ava, the single mother they had helped earlier, who had turned her sustainable clothing brand into a thriving enterprise. Seeing Ava mentor others was fulfilling for Daryl and Michelle, the embodiment of their mission coming full circle. Their dedication didn't stop there. They established partnerships with schools and community centers, offering scholarships to young people with innovative ideas but limited resources. Michelle spearheaded a campaign called Dream It, Build It, which provided seed funding to high school students with entrepreneurial aspirations. One of the first recipients was a young man named Tyler, who dreamed of creating a tech platform to connect small farmers with local markets. His idea resonated with Daryl, whose journey had started with a single innovative concept. As the foundation grew, so did its impact. Former recipients of the foundation's support began returning as mentors, creating a cycle of giving that extended beyond what Daryl and Michelle could have imagined. The foundation symbolized hope, proving that anyone could rise above their circumstance with the proper support. Through it all, Daryl and Michelle remained deeply involved, often spending long evenings reviewing applications, visiting program sites, and celebrating the successes of those they had helped. Their shared passion strengthened their bond and gave their lives a sense of fulfillment neither had experienced before. Amid their busy schedules, Daryl and Michelle began planning their wedding, a celebration of their love and shared journey. They held the ceremony at the Rosewood Estate, a picturesque venue surrounded by lush gardens and rolling hills. It was a place that symbolized renewal and growth, much like their relationship. Michelle wanted a personal and meaningful wedding, and Daryl fully agreed. Instead of hiring an extravagant wedding planner, they involved friends and family in the preparations. Ava volunteered to design Michelle's dress, incorporating elements of sustainability from her clothing brand. The result was a stunning gown that reflected Michelle's elegance and strength. Daryl, meanwhile, reached out to a local band he and Michelle had discovered during one of their foundation events. Their soulful music had brought the couple to tears, and Daryl knew they would be perfect for the occasion. He also planned a special surprise, a song he had written with the band's help, expressing his gratitude and love for Michelle. On the wedding day, the venue was filled with the people who had been part of their journey, former foundation recipients, business partners, and the staff who had stood by Daryl during his darkest days. Even Ava's young son, now thriving thanks to his mother's success, served as the ring bearer, a reminder of the lives the couple's work had touched. As Michelle walked down the aisle, her radiant smile lit up the entire venue. Standing at the altar, Daryl felt a wave of emotion unlike anything he had experienced. This wasn't just a wedding but the culmination of everything they had built together: trust, love, and a shared purpose. When it was time for the vows, Michelle spoke first, her voice steady and full of emotion. "Daryl, you taught me that love isn't just about grand gestures. It's about standing by each other when it matters most. You've shown me that it's possible to find hope and build something beautiful even in the face of betrayal and loss. Today, I promise to stand by you, not just as your wife, but as your partner in every sense of the word." Daryl's vows were equally heartfelt. "Michelle, you came into my life when I lost faith in people, love, and myself. You reminded me of what truly matters: kindness, resilience, and the courage to start over. I promise to cherish you, to support you, and to dream with you for the rest of our days." As they exchanged rings, the band began to play the surprise song Daryl had written. The lyrics spoke of finding light in the darkest moments and how Michelle had become his guiding star. There wasn't a dry eye in the audience. The reception was a joyous celebration, with heartfelt toasts, laughter, and dancing late into the night. For their first dance, Daryl and Michelle chose the band's soulful rendition of At Last, a song that perfectly captured the sentiment of their journey. The wedding wasn't just a union of two people, but a testament to the power of resilience, love, and second chances. As the evening came to a close, Daryl and Michelle stood hand in hand under the stars, surrounded by the people they had touched and who had touched their lives in return. As newlyweds, Daryl and Michelle transitioned into a life filled with personal joy and shared purpose. They settled into a modest yet elegant home, choosing a space to focus on their growing family and foundation. For Daryl, life felt complete for the first time. He was no longer burdened by betrayal or loneliness, and Michelle had brought warmth and love back into his world. One of their shared dreams was to create a safe and loving environment for needy children. Inspired by their foundation's success, Daryl and Michelle began adopting two siblings, Mia and Liam, whose parents had passed away. Both children, aged 6 and 9, had spent years in foster care and faced emotional scars from their complicated past. Michelle poured her heart into making the transition seamless for Mia and Liam, redecorating their rooms with vibrant colors and personal touches. Daryl, who had once doubted his ability to be a father, found himself thriving in the role. He introduced the children to his love for books, often reading bedtime stories that inspired courage and imagination. Their first family vacation was a trip to the mountains, where Mia and Liam experienced snow for the first time. Watching the children build snowmen and laugh freely brought tears to Daryl's eyes. It was a poignant reminder of how far he had come. From a man betrayed by those closest to him to a husband and father who had built a life filled with love. As a family, they also became ambassadors for adoption and foster care reform, using their platform to advocate for systemic changes. Michelle wrote articles sharing their journey, while Daryl spoke at conferences, encouraging others to open their hearts and homes to needy children. Together, they made it their mission to show the world that love and family could heal even the deepest wounds. Despite their happiness, life was not without its challenges. As the Second Chances Foundation grew, so did the demands on their time. Balancing their roles as parents and leaders of a major nonprofit organization often left them exhausted. However, they promised each other that their family would always come first. One of the foundation's most ambitious projects was opening a nationwide network of community hubs where people could access resources like financial education, job training, and mental health support. The project was met with logistical hurdles and funding challenges, but Michelle's determination never wavered. She led the charge, often working late into the night to secure partnerships and grants. During this time, Daryl faced a difficult decision. A former business partner approached him with an opportunity to launch a new tech company that promised significant profits. Although tempted, Daryl realized returning to the corporate world would detract from their mission. After discussing it with Michelle, he turned the offer down, reaffirming his commitment to the foundation and shared goals. Their resolve was tested further when a smear campaign emerged, targeting the foundation and questioning its legitimacy. Old enemies, jealous of their success, spread rumors of financial mismanagement. The accusations were baseless, but they cast a shadow over their work. Daryl and Michelle faced the media head-on, holding press conferences and releasing transparent financial reports to prove the foundation's integrity. In the end, their honesty and unwavering commitment won public support. Donations poured in, and the foundation's reputation emerged more potent than ever. It was a hard-fought victory, but it only deepened their bond and reminded them of the importance of standing together in the face of adversity. Years later, Daryl and Michelle sat together on their home's porch, reflecting on their incredible journey. The foundation had grown beyond their wildest dreams, with branches in cities across the country and a legacy of thousands of lives transformed. Mia and Liam, now teenagers, had blossomed into confident, compassionate young adults eager to carry on their parents' work. One particularly touching moment came when Ava, the single mother they had once helped, visited them with her now-grown son, Eric. He had just been accepted to a prestigious university and credited his success to the opportunities his mother had received from the foundation. Seeing how their work had created a ripple effect, touching not just individuals but entire generations, filled Daryl and Michelle with pride. The family launched the Ripple Effect initiative to commemorate their journey, a new program to foster mentorship and collaboration between successful foundation alums and new participants. The initiative's one-kind act, infinite impact, tagline perfectly encapsulated their philosophy. As they celebrated the foundation's 10th anniversary, Daryl and Michelle hosted a gala attended by people from all walks of life. From Ava and Tyler to the children and families they had helped, the room was filled with stories of resilience and triumph. When Daryl stood to give his speech, he was overwhelmed with emotion. "Tonight isn't just about what Michelle and I have accomplished," he began. "It's about all of you, your courage, dreams, and determination to improve the world. This foundation was built on the belief that a single act of kindness can change lives. Looking around this room, I see proof of that. Together, we've created something extraordinary." As the evening ended, Daryl and Michelle danced under the stars, surrounded by their children, friends, and the extended family they had built through their work. At that moment, they knew their legacy would endure, not because of their wealth or success, but because of the love and kindness they had shown.